We were inspired to take on this challenge because I got home from work one day and Oscar asked me what I'd been doing. And I said I'd been writing about the fact that Exodus was going to let teenagers climb Kilimanjaro with their parents for the first time ever. So they've been taking people up Kili for decades, but never children with their parents before. And what you said, or what age do you have to be?
Yeah, and you said 13, and I said, oh, when? And I think you replied, in the summer. And I said, I'll be 13 in the summer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it just got me thinking.
You just triggered a brainwave or something.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, if they think he can climb Kili, because, you know, he's a strapping 13-year-old lad, you know, and if they think 13 is okay, it's all been risk assessed and everything, then surely I must be able to climb it. And then I thought, well, if I could climb it, surely my mum would be able to. So I sent you a text, didn't I, saying, just hypothetically, if Oscar and I were climbing Kili this summer, would you be interested?
And I would never say no to a challenge like that. I'm up for a challenge always, and I've never done anything. I've never climbed a mountain in my life, and it's not a sort of holiday I've ever imagined going on, but the prospect of going with my daughter and my grandson and perhaps making a record, I was on for it.
What will make it really special if we get to the top of Kili is doing it with Mum and Oscar. I think I feel really privileged to be in a position of having the generation above me and below me both fit and able to even attempt something like this. There's not many people who get into that position. So yeah, I feel really lucky. It's something that would be a brilliant thing to do anyway at any time in your life, but to be able to do it as part of 3 generations, and for Mum potentially to be the first woman ever to summit Kili with her child and grandchild just makes it hugely special.
I was very excited even to be asked. I'd always somehow envisaged that I might do something with my family, and I don't spend very much time with either Jay or Oscar. They don't live near me at the moment, and Jay's always working. She works very hard, travels a lot, and I don't spend a lot of time. So the idea of spending time with her, but to do something as big as that. I mean, to be honest, to start with, I had no notion of what climbing Kilimanjaro meant. I didn't even know what continent Kilimanjaro was in. And so I had to find out it was in Africa. And now I think I'm quite an expert on it because I've read everything there is to read about it, because we've been writing this blog for weeks. But, so I'm really excited about it and just thrilled that I've been asked. I think I'm very privileged to have been asked to do it. And I'm fit enough to do it because so many of my friends are not, and have got illnesses and, all sorts of things to cope with. And I'm very lucky that I can even think about it. Might not make it though.
Well, it's not something that I would have thought I would have been able to do. I mean, it was because of Exodus being able to put 13-year-olds up Kilimanjaro. And when my mum said that, I was like, hey, let's do this. And it was that I was like, I just thought it was like a joke or something. Oh, let's go to Africa and climb a massive mountain. But when my mum said, oh, we're climbing a massive mountain, I was like, what? Okay, when? And she said, oh, in the end of the summer. I thought, what about school? And it's not a very good time, not a very big time gap for me to recover from the jet lag and stuff. But it's going to be amazing, I think.
When Jay asked me if I would climb up Kilimanjaro with her and Oscar, and that we're being supported by Exodus, I thought, great. And then I suddenly thought, well, but we could also do something else as well. We could try and raise some money for a charity. And I work as a volunteer for a local charity in Canterbury, Catching Lives, which works with homeless people to try to get them re-established in the community. I cook there every Wednesday. I'll be off there next Wednesday to cook for the guys, and absolutely love it. You walk in the morning, you don't know what you're going to get to cook with, and we sort of have a great team and we make food. The main purpose of it, though, is to be able to work with the guys towards getting rehoused. It isn't a soup kitchen. It's, a lot of work is done with their issues and trying to find housing for them. And it's just a great place. And so I thought, well, perhaps we could raise some money for that. And Jay seemed to think that was a good idea. And so we decided that 50% of what we raised should be for Catching Lives, a British charity, but the other 50% should be for other charities with which Exodus is
already
associated.
support. So half will go to Catching Lives, a quarter of the money will go to the Tanzania Porters Education Project, which is a project that educates potential porters and guides who live around the mountain to be able to make money safely from the mountains. So they get first aid training and English training and learn about altitude sickness and all of that.
And particularly women.
And
can
they
train
let
too.
women train there as well, which is very unusual for that part of the world. And then a quarter of it is going to other small community projects that Exodus funds around the world. So half to Britain and half to the rest of the world. Training is a really interesting one. I work really full time. I've got 3 boys. I travel for about 3.5 hours a day to get to and from work. So fitting training in has been interesting, but I had just started running before we started planning this. So I've been running at weekends. I've been doing a 7-minute workout before my shower in the morning, which is a tiny thing, but I think every day, it counts. Mum and I went to the Amalfi Coast to spend a week walking in March to get a bit of kind of walking practice in, because Mum's been on walking holidays before, I haven't. So I've never, although I've probably I have climbed a few mountains and things, just British ones and European ones, I haven't ever done that thing where you get up every morning and put your walking boots back on. And so I wanted to see how I felt about doing that. But it feels like I've been doing the least of training. Mum's been doing, you did a blog post that had how many things in one day?
Well, it was one day last week. I regularly go to a Pilates class, which I think is sort of very good for stability and strength, and makes me feel good. So I went to my Pilates class, and then I walked with a friend, probably about 7 miles to the coast. And then I'm a member of Canterbury U3A, the University of the Third Age, and we've a group that meets to swim in the sea there. So we all met up and we went for a swim. And then I cycled home again that evening, probably about 10 miles. So somebody said I'd sort of more or less done a triathlon plus a Pilates class in the course of that day. But I was walking, I wasn't running. I think for a triathlon you have to run.
I still think it counts. It's a lot of exercise.
Yeah, but that wasn't a typical day. But I have been walking a lot. I've got the time to do it. I'm not working apart from at Catching Lives.
Well, you've been like walking to your French conversation class, which is how far from home?
10 miles. Yeah, I'm walking 10 miles quite regularly, and I've enjoyed it. That's the funny thing. I've never in my life thought I could walk 10 miles on my own, but I take pleasure in walking my own now, so that's new. That's good.
What about you, Oscar?
For training, I've just done 7-minute workouts, a few with everyone here, but I have been doing sit-ups regularly and.
But you play out the back.
Play outside a lot, like every day. So that would really help, especially with the just walking bit, because there's a lot of running I do outside, and that must really help.
We've got a football pitch outside our back gate, which we bought the house specifically because of that, because we've got 3 boys. So Oscar and his brothers go out the back gate all the time and play, don't you?
I think the hardest part of the climb will probably be the last bit. The first 6 days, it seems to be quite slow walking, and I'm quite a quick walker, but I think that because of the altitude, slow walking is what will come naturally. During these days, we have to climb over what's called the Barranco Wall, which I think some people worry about because it's great big boulders. But I think I'll quite enjoy that after several days of plain walking, a bit of climbing over that. It's only apparently a couple of hours it takes to get over, and I don't mind the clambering. So for me, I think the hardest thing will be that last night when we get up at nearly midnight in the freezing cold, put on all our layers of clothes. People talk about 6 or 8 layers of clothing, one on top of the other, and your balaclava helmet and your hat on top of that and your hood on top of that and your layers of underwear and middlewear and topwear and your down jacket and your raincoat, and head up. And through the night, from about 11 o'clock in the evening until 6 in the morning, we'll be walking steeply uphill over uneven ground. and the altitude will be, you know, pressing down on us. I'm not sure if that's the right word. But anyway, I know that it's difficult. We'll be out of breath, hard to breathe. We will have symptoms, maybe sick, certainly, you know, other symptoms as well. Sometimes people start to, their brains start to go and you start to talk a lot of rubbish.
Let's hope we're not.
You know, and I think that will be really, really hard, and the cold as well. So that's what I think about in the middle of the night. I
am a bit nervous about the Barranco wall. I know Mum's not too worried, and I suspect Oscar will be good at it. He's a good climber. But I think my balance isn't brilliant. I think I inherited that from Dad, not from you. And I worry a little bit about that clambering bit for hours. But I'm sure Mum's right, and the really tough bit is going to be that last climb in the dark to the summit.
Obviously the Barranco wall, but I think I might be good at that because I think I'm pretty good at climbing, and hopefully I might be able to manage that even if I am completely exhausted or constantly vomiting or anything. But the last day has to be the trickiest because there's exhaustion, feeling sick, altitude sickness, just everything. But it'll be a change of pace for the Barranco wall, so that might fasten me up a little bit.